Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Tuesday Training. I hope you're having a fantastic week. As always,
we are live from Austin, Texas, right here at Insurance Syndicate headquarters, and man, we have a great show for you.
good morning. What is happening, man? It's Tuesday and my lights aren't on. That's better. That is better. Hey, man, if I am live in the group, drop some chats in there for me. Drop some comments. Let me know you can hear me. For some reason, I'm live here, but I am not seeing it in the group anywhere for some reason. Maybe it's just Facebook being Facebook for a second. But hopefully for sure I am up and live. If not, somebody send me a message or something. This is strange because it should definitely be running. But anyway, what is happening, man? I hope you guys are doing fantastic. We got some good stuff to do today. I'm very, very excited. We have some news. We have fair amount of news. I got some fraud news I want to share with you guys. Nothing new there, right? You guys always know that I like to drop some fraud information out there because there's no shortage of it. And we've got some pretty interesting fraud that has recently been discovered. And the projected IRMA rates are out for Medicare. They're not set in stone. These are projections. They're definitely more expensive than this year and previous years, naturally. The cost of goods just continues to go up, as well as the cost of Medicare. So I'm going to show you those. And then I want to dive into some lessons in field underwriting, being a good field underwriter. Like, what does it take to actually underwrite products? And I'm specifically in the Medicare Supplement and final expense arenas, right? I'm going to talk about that. That's my space. That's the space I know very well. And it's definitely an area where good field underwriting will, can make the difference between an outstanding agent and an agent that, writes trash, I guess. And we're going to dive into that. And I'm going to give you guys some tips on how you can be a good field underwriter. Bear with me just a moment. Boom. Lily says I'm popping. So I guess I'm running. For some reason, I can't get it pulled up. But I am live in the group. So thank you guys, which means I can't see your comments. I don't know what's going on with it, but for whatever reason, I cannot see your comments if you are even making any. But if I'm in the group, I'm running live, then let's go. Boom, bang, pow. So with that said, first things first, man, let's jump into some of this news. Let me share this with you guys. Boom. You may have just heard about this. This is fairly new. It came out I think on the 21st, like right as we went into the weekend. But the FBI and the United States shut down India-based call center. As a matter of fact, they found 5 call centers that they shut down for various reasons. The one specifically being referenced in this article is an operation, an overseas call center in India that is targeting elderly Americans. Imagine that. I mean, this is something that a lot of us have been complaining about for a while, not only with some of these call centers that are just doing straight fraud, and then some, really, my battery's going to die on my mouse right now as I'm trying to do this. Apparently. All right. We are clicking on all cylinders this morning, aren't we? Hang tight. Let's replace the batteries. Somebody sing a song maybe for this little commercial break real quick as I grab me a new battery. What's that Jeopardy song? All right, now we're hopping. So here we go. And it still won't let me grab this. Are you kidding? There it goes. All right. Oh my goodness. Let's try this again. All right. So yes, right here. Boom. US based shuts down India call center. What is this call center doing? Well, if I can get this article to run and my mouse to work, there it goes. Authorities have shut down India-based call center operation allegedly defrauded hundreds of elderly Americans of millions of dollars through tech support scams. So these are telemarketing fraudsters. This isn't necessarily Medicare bilking on this one, right? They're doing various telemarketing frauds. Man. It said that the call center targeted hundreds of elderly victims in the U.S. and abroad and defrauded them of millions of dollars. Two senior execs who operated a business that enabled it have just admitted to turning a blind eye. Comes after an FBI Boston investigation that resulted in the arrest and conviction of a former employee of their call routing company and 5 India-based telemarketing fraudsters. According to the statement issued by the U.S. Attorney's Office, District of Rhode Island, yada, yada, they admitted to operating a business that provided telecom-related services, including telephone numbers, call routing services, call tracking, and call forwarding services to customers they knew that were engaged in tech support fraud schemes, right? So these guys are saying that, hey, we were basically providing telecom-related services to these guys that we knew for a fact were doing telecom fraud schemes targeting old folks here in the U.S. So that they shut that one down. That is one, or that's actually 5 centers that they caught there. I'll get this article in the group if you guys want to check it out. But there are some better ones that I want to move on to, sticking with the fraud theme right here. Man, this mouse is being weird on me, but here we go. California doctor. This is just came out on the 19th, but California doctor convicted of $45 million with an M, dollars, lots of them, so that funded luxury vacations and a $12,000 crossbow. That's a nice crossbow. Says Violetta Malian was paid 6 times more than the next highest group of providers, all neurologists. Here it says California doctor accused of submitting more than $45 million in false and fraudulent Medicare claims for Botox injections in an effort to fund a lavish lifestyle that included luxury vacations and the purchase of a $12,000 17th century crossbow. That's pretty slick. She's been convicted. Violetta Malian, 45, of Glendale, was convicted of 9 counts of wire fraud, 3 counts of obstruction of a criminal investigation. Wow. An analyst showed that she had been paid more by Medicare for Botox injections than any other doctor in the United States, making her an extreme outlier. She was falsely diagnosing patients, fraudulently billed Medicare for Botox injections while she was actually on lavish vacations, of course, and tried to trick federal agents with fake records. The Frauds Division data-driven approach shines a light on fraud schemes across the country, blah, blah, blah. What else does it say about her in here? In addition to scheming to defraud Medicare, she altered medical records in an attempt to mislead investigators. She owned and operated the Healthy Way Medical Center, which billed Medicare for Botox injections that were medically unnecessary and never actually provided. Some of her, this included billing for injections on dates while she was traveling. Cabo, Maui, Hawaii, Vegas, PA. Is there a lavish vacation in Pennsylvania? And New York. Furthermore, some of the injections allegedly took place on dates when the clinic was actually closed. Or when the patient who supposedly received the treatment was actually incarcerated in a federal prison. So she even had one patient that was already incarcerated himself or herself. So we've seen a lot of these types of things, right, where doctors are doing unnecessary, they're billing for unnecessary procedures. We've got Botox injections, we've got skin grafts, catheters, all kinds of stuff, man. We got one more, and then I'm going to jump into some meat for you guys right here. This one just came out as well. This is a teacher. Actually, this is an older one. This is a teacher that pled guilty for $51 million Medicare fraud scheme. CMS asked states to revalidate high-risk Medicaid providers, AI models, yada, yada, yada. Key takeaways: Jeanette Valenzuela Ayub admitted laundering at least $14 million from roughly $20 million in Medicare payments tied to, again, unnecessary requested orthotic braces. So same concept, right? These are doctors, providers, durable medical equipment providers that are working together to basically bilk Medicare for items that are unnecessary, right? Whether again, like I said, skin grafts. This one is doing orthotic braces, et cetera, et cetera. But former California teacher pled guilty to money laundering conspiracy for her role in a $51 million Medicare fraud scheme involving DME claims for orthotic braces. Again, same concept, right? Beneficiaries never requested, never used. Many of them still found in their original packaging. And then a little detail down here, it says that the Trump administration plans to ask all 50 states to revalidate Medicaid providers in what CMS Administrator Dr. Oz described as high-risk areas as part of the broader push to reduce fraud in the program. So talking about unlicensed individuals being involved in this, et cetera, et cetera. So again, the fraud continues. Thankfully, they're taking it down more and more, and they keep finding some. But I always like to point it out and let you guys kind of know what's going on. But I mean, just in those two articles, we've got over $100 million in Medicare fraud, just in those two. There was another article, and I can't locate it. Somebody sent it to me, and I apologize. For the life of me, I cannot find it. But this was for a gentleman that had hit Medicare for over $1 billion in fraud. I can't remember exactly what the scheme was. I glanced over the article, and I thought I'd bookmarked it to share with you guys, but I cannot find it. Nonetheless, let's jump into this one, because this is definitely something that's going to affect you guys out there in the Medicare space. As I said earlier, the cost of Medicare will continue to go up, it looks like. These are projected 2027 IRMA brackets and surcharges for Part B and D, right? These are not current. These are not approved. They're probably pretty accurate, though, I would suspect. No need to go through the whole article. If you're listening to this and if you're listening to this and you don't know what IRMA is, let me just give you a quick lesson. IRMAA stands for Income Related Monthly Adjustment Amount. So in other words, if you're a high income earner, you pay more for Medicare. You pay more for your Part B. You pay more for your Part D premiums, right? You have surcharges that sit on top of them. The more money you make, the higher that surcharge. It runs on a sliding scale and eventually caps out for the folks that are over 750K, as I remember. So again, no need to go through the article. I just want to go right to the meat, the numbers that y'all are looking for, and they're right here. So these are projected income brackets. And remember, your IRMA, right, whatever your surcharge is based on your income 2 years previously. So that's why you see this where it says projected brackets if your 2025 monthly adjusted gross income was blah, 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 right? So in 2027, people's Medicare premiums for Parts B and D are going to be judged or decided on based on 2025 income. Now, as people's income changes, there's a single one-pager that you can use to appeal it. I just successfully got a guy pulled all the way down from one of the top IRMA premiums back down to the nominal rates, which is much more affordable for him. He was a very high income earner, but has since retired and no longer makes really any money. So we were able to appeal that using his tax returns and get it dropped. But right here, basically it's going to tell you, right, if you're at they're going to raise it, like, what is it this year? It's 109. So if you make more than $109,000, you pay more for Medicare. If you file jointly, it's 218. So they're going to raise those numbers up a little bit, projected, right, to 112 for the individual, 224 for the joint filed company or couple. So if you're that number or less, you would pay your Part B premium only, which, as we know, currently is $202.90, probably going up again. Like, let's be honest, it's probably going up again. But if you make more than $112,000 as an individual, or more than $224,000 as a couple filing jointly, then you would pay your Part B premium plus an $87.40 surcharge for your IRMA, $15.40 on your Part D, right? All the way to the bottom, where if you make more than $750K as a joint couple, $500K as an individual, you would pay your Part B premium plus a $524.60 surcharge. Currently, that number, I don't know what the exact IRMA surcharge is, but the total amount is what, $689, if I remember correctly, for the very top bracket, right? If you're at the top bracket currently today, I think you pay $689 total for your Part B premium. So this is a good jump. Like they're looking at, this is about a $30 to $40 jump at that top level for sure. And then obviously this right column is the Part D side, right? If you're the top earner, in addition to whatever premium you pay for your Part D plan, you would also pay another $96.40. So if you have that WellCare $0 plan, you're going to end up paying $96.40 for it. And if you're not aware, like if you're not drawing Social Security, this gets added to your quarterly premium bill that you pay to Medicare. If you are drawing Social Security, then unless you change your payment method on your Medicare account, that money's coming right out of that, right? So fairly simple. The cost of Medicare goes up. If you're out there doing videos on Medicare and talking to people on social media, pretty good article. Just make sure you tell them like, hey, these aren't the verified numbers. These are projected numbers. But it's a great point to tell people like, hey, the cost of Medicare is going up. Here's some more information on what you might look for next year if you're a high income earner, and why you should listen to me and let me help you navigate these costs, navigate what you need. So good information there. As that develops and as we see, because the firm numbers will probably have sometime between now and September, October, right? Usually Medicare numbers don't drop until right around October. Sometimes if it's an election year, they might even wait until after the election. We've seen that in the past, I think. Anyway, moving along. That is all good stuff. So like I said earlier, I wanted to talk about field underwriting. Like I'm old school. I've been in this business for 22 years. When I started in the business, everything was on paper. Like I ran around in the field, knocked on doors, ran appointments, talked to people, and I presented applications on paper. We'd fill them out on paper, right? We would fax them in, mail them in, all of that stuff. Like I have absolutely watched this industry go from analog to digital. And in the old days, like when you're out there banging on doors and talking to people face to face, like, yeah, sounds great. Like field marketing, just, it makes sense. It fits right in with what you're already doing because I'm sitting there presenting a paper app. Like I'm going to go through it. That is what is called field underwriting. Alternatively, as we've grown in this digital world and telesales world, less and less people are going out in the field and seeing people face to face, sitting across from them belly to belly and filling out an application and writing it up. And if that's the case, well, then not as then field underwriting gets a little lost is what I'm trying to say. Sorry, people were messaging me regarding the live video being up, being down, so I got a little distracted. But anyway, field underwriting's gotten different, right? It's a lot more digital technology going on. A lot of people doing telesales, so they're not sitting across that person belly to belly. They may or may not be reading the application, and this is one of the disadvantages, I will say, in telesales. I'm a telesales guy now. I used to not be, but now I am, and have been for quite some time. If you're writing, let's just say Medicare Supplement plan, and I'm going to write it over the phone, and I'm dealing with somebody that's not in open enrollment, they're not in a guarantee issue window, they've got to be underwritten. It's important that I take time to field underwrite, right? And I'm going to call it field underwriting still, to field underwrite that app before I actually ever get on the carrier's platform to start underwriting. Because if you know anything about Medicare Supplement apps, and this is true with final expense apps as well, online, the underwriting questions aren't the first thing they ask you. You have to go through all their personal information, their Medicare info, their Medicaid info. You have to fill out a lot of data before you even get to the section on the health questions. So then you get to the section on the health questions, you ask them some health questions, you find out, oh crap, this person's not going to qualify. And now you've wasted time sitting there filling out all this other stuff on a digital electronic app before you even get to finding out if they're going to qualify. Problematic. And I want to explain the reason that I brought this up was because I saw a post in a Facebook group. I had it up and now I've dropped it. But I saw a post in a Facebook group where a poster, an agent, was asking about whether or not someone would qualify for a Medicare supplement. And the questions that they were asking were, it wasn't just like, hey, what carriers will accept AFib, arterial fibrillation, right? Or what carrier will accept a stroke, or what carrier will accept inhalers or Eliquis, or what. Like, it wasn't like a one, like I'm looking for this one little item. It was a very broad, like, hey, I've got this guy that had a prostate exam. He just got out of the hospital, yada, yada, yada. What Medicare supplement carriers would take him? Or what are the chances that he could get a Medicare supplement? And my response was super simple. I'm like, hey, have you taken time to read the questions on the application? Because I'm of the opinion that all the information you need to verify if someone would likely qualify for a Medicare supplement is written in the application. 100%. So it was obvious to me, no offense to this agent, that she didn't take any time to actually look at the application to verify if indeed this person could get through the health questions. So number one, being a good field underwriter, whether you're telesales or not, requires you to, one, have a copy of the application that you can look at. Have a copy of the underwriting guide that you can look at and reference. Every Medicare supplement carrier has a copy of an application, even if it's a carrier like Bankers Fidelity that doesn't really do paper apps. So they're just giving you this copy of it as a sample, because they all have to have this document. They have to file it with the State Department of Insurance, get it approved, and then they push it to a digital online app that you're actually filling out. But having a copy of this is super helpful. And all you have to do is go to the carrier's website, go to their form section, download it, save it. Same with the underwriting guide. They all produce an underwriting guide. Some carriers' underwriting guides are better than others. Some are more detailed than others. But most of them will tell you what they're looking for, what type of business will get approved. And I know some of you are like, no, but can't I just go to Facebook and ask somebody else to give me the answer? Sure. If you want to continue to be lazy, you can do that. But I would say learn to educate yourself. Learn to get the answers at your own fingertips. Teach yourself the information, because then it'll stick better. Now, secondarily, let me back this up. If you are writing a lot of Medicare supplement or a lot of final expense business, particularly if it's underwritten, then it would probably behoove you to get a subscription to Insurance Toolkits. I'm not here slinging Insurance Toolkits. I have it. It is a great tool. If you write enough business to justify the cost of it, I can't remember. I think it's, was it maybe 40 or 50, 60 bucks a month? Maybe it's $99 a month. I forget. But it will underwrite all your business for you. Where basically you can take someone, I can punch in their drugs, I can punch in their conditions, their height, weight, everything I need to know about them, their age, their zip code, and it will snap underwrite it against all the products, and it'll tell you who would approve them or who would most likely approve them, right? And that's super helpful if you're writing a lot of business in that space over and over and over where it becomes necessary. If maybe you're a Medicare agent and you write primarily Medicare Advantage, and every once in a while a Medicare supplement case crosses your desk, or maybe you do some cross-marketing and final expense, you're not writing a ton of it, but you're writing enough that you need to kind of understand it. But even if you're not writing any, and you don't have Insurance Toolkits, any of that, all of the information you need to successfully judge and field underwrite an app is in the application. And then there's extra in the underwriting guide. So I'm going to go through it just a little bit and give you guys some examples of what I'm talking about here. Because again, like old days in the field, like you had to run around with these apps, and field underwriting meant actually reading the application. But it seems like people don't read the applications anymore. I don't think anybody reads anymore sometimes, especially documents. But let's be honest, the entire insurance industry is based around paper contracts and reading and understanding the nature of it all. I mean, these applications are contracts between the insurance company, the agent, and the client. We sign contracts as agents with the insurance companies and FMOs and brokers. Like, you should definitely learn how to read paper and follow it, right? But right here, like just as an example, I'm using Bankers Fidelity as an example. This is a copy of their Texas app. Like right at the front, they give you some pretty good information. They tell you like, hey, number one, here's the details on writing this application, right? Here's what the information you're going to need. We want to know what their height, weight is. We want to know what prescriptions they're taking. Answer, and it even tells you like, hey, if they answer no to all of the health questions on the app, it doesn't mean guaranteed acceptance. Now, generally speaking, and this was definitely true in the older days, it's not as true now as the industry's evolved, people's health conditions have evolved, and Medicare Supplement carriers and Final Expense have expanded their products to include more tiered underwriting. Used to be we didn't have any tiered underwriting. You had a list of questions. If they can't answer them all no, don't even bother sending in the application because it's going to get declined. Period. Like that was, we knew that. So I'd go sit in someone's house. I'd run an appointment. I'd ask them the questions. If they answered yes to any question on the application, it was going to get declined. And that's what I'm kind of talking about in regards to being a good field underwriter. You want to be able to underwrite it at the field level to feel good enough and confident that you know or feel confident that it's going to get approved. Assuming nobody's lying on the application, assuming the client's not taking or wasn't prescribed medications or conditions that they never knew about or never took, right? That does, because that's usually, if you're a great field underwriter, that should be the only thing that catches you off guard. Is either A, you have a client that is totally lying to you, which is rare and unfortunate. I don't think most of them lie. I think in most cases they're either misinformed or they forgot about something or they didn't know, right, that maybe the doctor put that in their chart. But the best example, and the one that happens to me when it does happen, right, because I'm pretty darn good at field underwriting, is when they're prescribed a declinable drug that they're not taking. Right. Doctor told them, hey, I need you to start taking Eliquis. And I'm just using it as an example, but they never actually go fill it up. So when you ask them like, hey, what are your prescriptions? They give you the prescriptions they're taking, not the prescriptions that the doctor also told them to take. Well, that doesn't matter. Whether they're taking it or not doesn't matter. If the doctor prescribed it, then Milliman, the company that registers all the different drug backgrounds and medical records, et cetera, they're going to see it. And that means that whether they're taking the drug or not, they have the condition that the drug is used for. And we don't insure people that have that condition, so they'll decline it. But going back to this, right up front, they give you their height weight chart that tells you like, hey, you know, if they're in this range, boom, they'll get the preferred rate. If they're in this range, they'll get the standard rate. If they're under or over, we're going to decline them. Not every carrier uses a height weight chart. That's good information to know. For example, Aetna Supplemental on their Medicare Supplement products, they don't use a height weight chart. You know, I remember Mike Jeffers made a comment. He's like, yeah, I put all my heavy people with Aetna Supplemental because they don't have a height weight chart. And that was much more important when they were competitive. And it might be one of the reasons they're not as competitive as they used to be. And then generally the second page of the app is usually all the personal info. And this is what I was talking about when I was saying when you're doing this electronically, you don't want to waste your time underwriting the app electronically. You want to underwrite it before you ever log into the website, to the carrier site. You want to already know that, hey, this is worth my time to submit. How do we do that? Well, we just get on, if you're in this, again, I'm using kind of a telesales thing, but even true if you're doing face-to-face and you're out there with your laptop doing electronic apps, just pull the app up first, have a copy of it, go to the health questions, ask your client all of the health questions, including their scripts, check it against the app and the underwriting guide. And if you like it, if you feel confident, like, hey, they got through all the questions with no's, they're not taking any wild drugs, looks like a great opportunity, then go fill the app out and submit it. It's super simple. In paper, you would do it this way, right? As an example, if you're out there in paper, you probably just go right through it. But even like same thing, when I went when I was in the field doing all this shit on paper back in the day, I didn't start at the top. I didn't start filling this stuff out first. As soon as I sat down with that client, whether when in some cases on the phone, but as soon as I sat down with them face to face, I went right to the health questions on the page and let's start here. Let me make sure that it's worth my time to put pen to paper and actually fill this thing out. I don't want to start filling it out and then find out they're like, oh, you're all jacked up and unhealthy. I can't even get you approved. And even that's why I stress it even more so on telesales. And this was something I learned because I was in that space. I was in that space where telesales was starting. It hadn't really gotten there because, again, when I first started in this business, everything was on paper, 100%. So you had to physically sit in front of the person and at least get a wet signature, right? You had to fill out a paper application. And for a long time, mail it in. Shit, it wasn't until 2006 or 7 that fax apps started happening. Like, I have a whole story about this. I remember it perfectly. And I'm not going to go through the whole story because I'm going to stick with the underwriting details. But I remember, and just to explain this to you, I would call and set appointments. I was doing replacement Medicare Supplement apps. So I would buy data that was 67 to 75 years old. I would cold call those people and I would ask them if they had a Medicare Supplement plan in place already. And if they didn't, even better. But and if they did, like, my whole goal was to find people that probably had a Medicare Supplement, had probably seen some rate increases, and I could come in and save them money. And it wasn't uncommon to find people 67 or 68 years old even that were still very healthy and could easily qualify, but were paying $50, $60, $70, $100 more per month than what I could come in and bring them. So I would call them and I would set the appointment based on the rate. Like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's come over, let's set an appointment. I'd come over and I'd write the app. And so I would go over there and I'd pull up the health questions. I'd start asking them. And in many cases, I would find out, not many, but enough that it bothered me. I would find out, shoot, I scheduled this appointment. I've come all the way over to your home. I'm sitting across from you now. You're an interested buyer, but you do not qualify. You answered one of the health questions that is declinable, and I'm not going to get you issued. That annoyed the crap out of me. So then I started field underwriting the app on the phone before the appointment. So I would get their interest. Like, yeah, that sounds great. What do we got to do? It's like, well, I need to set an appointment to complete the application. But before we do that, let's make sure that we can clear a few health questions. And then I would ask them the health questions over the phone, make sure that in my confidence, like, hey, they could, and back then it was easier, even easier, because all they had to do was answer anything no. Apps have gotten a little more detailed nowadays, and I'm going to dive into that in a second. I would get all the health questions verified, and if I was confident that they would likely get approved, then I would schedule the appointment, go over to their house, fill out the app. And I had it to the point where eventually I was filling out the app on the phone with them, printing it, and then going over there and getting a wet signature. It became just a formality. And I didn't have to run a long appointment at the house. I'd come over and like, here's the application, blah, 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 go through it. Need a signature here, signature here, signature here. Need a paper check. Let's go. All right. And then I'd come back, deliver the policy, and I'd cross-market final expense. Fairly simple. But nowadays it's gotten slightly more complicated because health conditions have evolved, right? People are taking more meds. They got different health conditions that are out there, and carriers have expanded their underwriting to include some more nuance in them. And sometimes, right? So some of them might have, some tiered underwriting. For example, United Healthcare, right? They have regular rates and they have your group 2 rates. So depending on what health questions they can get through, they have sections. If they get through these health questions, right, based on, and I think United Healthcare still has it based on age, right? So in certain age brackets, if you can get through these health questions, you're good. You get through these health questions, you're still good, right? If you struggle on these, well, we'll still issue you, but we're going to give you the group 2 rate. Cigna, HealthSpring, they had tiered underwriting with substandard options on their application. Bankers Fidelity has some, I wouldn't call it tiered underwriting, but they do have standard and preferred rates, which smoker rates versus non-smoker, but in their height weight chart, as we showed earlier, right? if you can get through the health questions properly, but your height weight chart is not in the preferred range, they'll still give you a standard premium. So some of these nuances have developed over the years. Back in the day, it was not like that. It was either yes, no, approved or declined, smoker, non-smoker. That was it. But still, doesn't mean you can't be a good field underwriter. So when you have a question and you have someone that's got issues, they were in the hospital 3 days ago, or they had some prostate exams, or they had a knee surgery, or they've taken this drug or that drug, don't go on Facebook and start just randomly asking people. Just grab your favorite products, get a copy of the application and look it up. It's right there on the application, like it tells you, right? And all they have to do is be able to get through these questions. Number one, are you covered for medical assistance through state Medicaid? No, that is the wrong one. That is not the health questions. They're a little further. That's still Medicaid stuff. There we go. Right? So here we go, health questions. I'm not going to sit here and go through all of these, but I'm going to give you some examples. There are some common declines from carrier to carrier that are fairly uniform, but not every carrier is the same. Some carriers will still take arterial fibrillation, AFib, some won't, right? But for example, like some of these first questions right at the top, you're going to see those on pretty much every application. Hey, if you're confined to a hospital bed, a wheelchair, a walker, a mobility device, that's pretty much a hard declination across all carriers as an example, right? But I can definitely tell you in regards to at least Bankers Fidelity's application, if they can't answer no to almost all the questions, they do have a small section right here that you can answer yes to these questions and maybe still get approved, but as they say, you're going to get a standard rate. If you can't answer no to all of these health questions, it ain't worth submitting the app. And it's really that cut and dry. And if, no offense, but if you can't read these questions and understand if the answer is yes or no properly, you might not go back to English class. I don't know what to tell you, man. This is fairly simple stuff. Do you currently have or had in the past 6 months a cardiac defibrillator, more than 50 units of insulin, right? Are you taking this? Are you diagnosed with this? Do you have this? Are there some occasionally gray areas? Yes, it happens, right? Like if you get into people that may have, like, say, osteoporosis as an example down here. It says been treated by infusions for osteoporosis. So you can have osteoporosis, but if you're being treated by infusions, that's going to be a problem, right? You can be diabetic, but if you're diabetic taking more than 50 units of insulin, that's going to be a problem. So there are some little nuances in there, but again, the app lays it out perfectly. And if you're not sure on the application, just go to the underwriting guide, which I'm about to pull theirs up here in a second. But I just, I'm just trying to iterate to you guys that you should 100% have a copy of every Medicare supplement application that you might write and every final expense application that you might write. And I'm talking the PDF version so that you can physically see. Do I have mine? Hang on one second. Oh, is this it? Yes, it is. I thought I'd loaned it to Grace, but I got it right here. And I'm going to give you a tip. This is more specific to telesales guys. I mean, this entire thought process doesn't matter if you're telesales or not. But if you are a telesales agent, something I would highly recommend would be to create you a little underwriting binder. Alternatively, get insurance toolkits, pay the money, do that. But this works really well. So what this is, try to see if I can show you all as best I can. This is basically all of the health questions for every product that we might sell that has underwriting involved. And it's all simplified issue stuff, right? So these are all Medicare Supplement, final expense, cancer apps, etc., with underwriting options. So the reason I have this is that when I, as the agent, am talking to the client and I'm like, oh, this person is not inside of open enrollment. They're not inside of a guarantee issue period, but they want a Medicare supplement plan. Let me underwrite them real quick. I'll quote the rate. And then all I got to do now is go to the product. Oh, there it is, Aetna. Okay, cool. And then I can just rip out the questions with them on the phone. Hey, do you have any of this in the past 5 years? Have you had that in the past 2 years? Have you dealt with this? Do you have this? Do you have that? Does this hurt? Does that hurt? And then I can quickly find out, hey, this person qualifies. And then once I know they qualify, I'm going to jump straight to the electronic app, get it filled out, get it submitted, bing, bang, pow. Versus go to the application, get it open, log in, fill out all their information, take all of that time, and then get to the health questions and find out, shit, they don't qualify. That is bad time management, but it's also poor field underwriting. Now, if I'm out in the field, I might still have some of this with me, but in most cases, I'm going to have my laptop with me, and I already have copies of those items on my laptop in a little folder. So I can immediately pull it up and be like, all right, John, let's look at this real quick. Boom, boom, boom. Do you have this? Does you have that in the past 5 years? Blah, blah, blah. So a couple things I wanted to mention in a little more detail on that. The look back period is a lot of times something that can catch you. And if you didn't catch what I said the look back period. So, and this is where you will have some nuance from carrier to carrier sometimes, right? Because some questions might be worded in the last 2 years. That's their look back period. They're looking back 2 years for those items. If it happened more than 2 years ago, then it would ultimately be a no answer and you should be clear, right? And you will see sometimes that those questions might be in the last month, in the last 6 months, in the last year, in the last 2 years, in the last 5 years, in the last 10 years for things like maybe cancer. And sometimes they just might say, have you ever in your life dealt with this? So they have lifetime questions. So you need to look for some of those. Final expense is no different for the most part. Like most of the questions that you see on a Medicare Supplement app are very close to, if not identical, to questions you see on a final expense app. There are some different ones. There's a lot of final expense carriers, especially nowadays. They'll have the preferred level benefit, maybe even super preferred, right? They'll have a standard level benefit, and then they're going to have graded benefits based on their application. It's going to vary by carrier, right? Not every carrier has multiple levels, but for the ones that do, you will have some different tiered underwriting in there. Next thing, looking at the underwriting guide. So again, I'm just using Bankers Fidelity as an example. Every carrier out there in the Medicare supplement space, every carrier out there in the final expense space has some type of underwriting guide. Generally speaking, the application should take care of it, in my opinion. If you can read English, you can grab the application and you can find out if that person would qualify based on how they answer those health questions on the application. The reason that I bring up the underwriting guide is because it will give you additional information, right? They will tell you, like, for example, they will tell you some of the disqualifying medications. This isn't a perfect list. And it's just more common, right? There are other medications that can still disqualify people, but these are some of the common ones. Like I don't see Eliquis on here, but I can pretty much guarantee you Eliquis would be one. Carvedilol, we just had someone recently that was taking Carvedilol and couldn't get approved. So you can grab this and you can verify and be like, oh, yeah, okay, you're taking Sensipar, so they're not going to approve you if you're taking Sensipar, as an example, right? So you can grab your client's drug list, compare it with their disqualifying medications, and that will give you even more info. Generally, I can tell you, that narcotics, not getting approved. Like your oxycodone, your oxymorphone, those aren't getting approved. Blood thinners, often not getting approved. Coumadin, warfarin, Eliquis, etc. You're going to struggle with some of those. Insulins aren't always just a hard decline. It's going to depend on the carrier, whether or not they even accept insulin, whether they accept it up to a certain number of units, etc. Depression, antipsychotic medications like lithium, etc. You will struggle with some of those. So, some of that you'll have to learn. It's not perfect across all carriers. It's not standardized. Some might take Eliquis where others won't, etc., etc. So you're just going to have to look at some of those nuances. That's why these underwriting guides and things like that are super important. Here's some more that it talks about. Use of supplemental oxygen, asthma meds, right? So if they're requiring the use of 3 or more medications to treat asthma, that would be a decline with them. So asthma is not a decline, but asthma, if you're taking 3 or more medications to treat asthma, including inhalers, that would be a decline. Medications where you're going into the physician's office to get an infusion or an injection, that would be a decline. Whether it's infusions for osteoporosis, might be infusions for your asthma. My dad had real bad asthma, and he would actually go get steroid injections. So because of that, I generally couldn't get him rewritten on another Medicare supplement plan because of those injections. I had a cousin that was getting Botox injections in her throat to help with her voice cords. Same thing, like once I wrote her, like I could never get her rewritten. So it varies by carrier, but they're going to give you the details in here pretty quick that should tell you whether or not that person would likely qualify. Now, again, just because you go through the application, you get all the health questions answered no, you check their drugs, and it's all perfect, just because you do a masterful job in field underwriting doesn't guarantee that it's going to get approved, because there might be something you missed. There might be a drug the client missed. There might be a drug that they're taking that's or that they're not taking, but was documented, right? When you find that, they will give you appeal processes. Usually they have to write to Milliman, get a copy of their drug list, blah, 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 go through it. It's a bit of a pain in the ass. Sometimes that can be a detail you got to go through. But for the most part, everything you need to field underwrite an application for final expense and Medicare supplement is provided to you if you just go get the tools and put them on your desktop, put them in a folder on your laptop, print them and put them in a little binder for you, whatever you need. Don't go on Facebook and just be like, hey, I got a client that's 67, has a high PSA exam, just got out of the hospital. What are the chances I can get him a Med Sup? And that question isn't horrible. What's really horrible is that the agent that posted that admitted to filling out an application and submitting it. So she's wasted her own time, wasted the client's time, wasted the insurance company's time by not taking time to read the application, understand the process of what field underwriting looks like, to know if that application should even be bothered to be submitted. I will tell you that my approval rate on applications is extremely high. Usually if I submit a Medicare supplement app or a final expense app, underwritten, of course, I'm talking about underwritten apps, it's getting approved. Like my field underwriting is generally on point. The only time I get declines is when I have it's exactly what I was talking about. When I have a client that was diagnosed or prescribed a medication that they're not aware of, and it pops up on their medical records, and then boom, they get declined. And I've had that happen a few times. It doesn't happen a lot, but it does happen. Like I would say in the last few years, it's happened a handful of times where they got prescribed an opiate, or they got prescribed Eliquis, or they got prescribed something, but said, the hell with that, I'm not going to go fill it up. Well, the fact that they're not taking it doesn't matter. The fact the doctor wrote it in the medical chart and prescribed it is all that matters. So there's not much you can do to get around that, and it will happen from time to time. And then occasionally, yeah, you might get an untruthful client. You might. But most of these carriers now, they're going to do two things. They're going to go by the application that you filled out. They're going to go by the application that you filled out, and hopefully you did it right. Right? Second thing they're going to do, because they already know they can't trust every agent out there, because some of y'all will just absolutely clean sheet the app and answer everything no without asking any damn questions, which is terrible practice. Don't do that. I know of a bunch of agents that is their practice, 100%. Matter of fact, I know of an agency, they're not really around anymore, but they taught their agents that. Let the carrier do the underwriting. Just fill out the application, answer all the health questions, no, and send it in. The carrier will underwrite it. That's a terrible practice. You are not being a good agent of the insurance company, which you're contractually obliged to do, if you're doing it that way. So please don't do that. Don't clean sheet apps and send them in and just let the carrier do it. Do your due diligence. Field underwrite the app properly, right? So that you have confidence whether or not something's going to get approved or not, right? Don't be so shy that you see that a product's going to get declined or an application will get declined. You're very confident that it'll be declined and not have the professionalism to explain that properly to your prospect or client. Not good, right? So field underwrite it properly, send it in, and run with it. Where was I going with that? There was another detail with that. Now I can't remember it. Poof. But it had to do with clean sheet and apps. Yeah, don't clean sheet the apps. Answer the questions like they're written. Send it in, right? Hopefully it gets issued properly based on your assessments. So field underwriting is where it's at. Be a good field underwriter, man. I promise you it will pay you mass dividends because you'll learn, especially when you're writing a lot of business, you'll learn that certain things like, oh, this carrier takes that carrier takes that, boom, bang, pow, I can get this done over here, right? I can place you there. And then again, if you're writing enough of it, like just go get insurance toolkits and simplify the whole thing because then you can just punch in your case and it'll spit it out and it'll tell you all the carriers that will accept those items based on the time frames, et cetera. That is pretty much it. I'm trying to think if I had something else on there. I don't know that I do. I feel like I did, but I think I covered pretty much everything I wanted to cover. So if you got any questions on that, man, feel free to hit me up. I apologize for whatever reason. I'm not able to get feedback on the video. So if you got comments in there, I'll come back and answer them later. I guess that's pretty much it, man. So do your thing. Get you a copy of the underwriting guide. Make sure you have a copy of the app. Read it. Learn how to use it. Raise your effort and write good business, man. We'll see y'all next week for Tuesday training. Have an awesome, awesome day.